The movie opens in the world of Orca, a bustling aquapark famous for its killer whale shows. An advertisement plays, celebrating Cedo, the park's star killer whale, who has been performing for over 20 years. The ad invites visitors to reserve tickets for upcoming shows, emphasizing Cedo as the main attraction. Two staff members talk about Cedo, noticing how unpredictable she's become since losing her calf, Poisidem. One staff leaves, warning the other not to linger, while the second staff goes to check on the whale, calling her name again and again. When Cedo doesn't respond, she cautiously enters the water. Then, in a shocking instant, the whale circles and attacks, killing her. The story then shifts to Maddie, a talented cellist working part-time at a diner while preparing for graduation. Late one night, as she finishes cleaning after her shift, she is startled when her boyfriend Chad suddenly appears inside. Surprised, Maddie asks how he got in. Chad jokingly says it was magic before pointing out that the back door was unlocked and reminding her to lock it for her own safety. Maddie admits she often forgets. Their conversation turns to the graduation party Maddie missed after picking up a last-minute shift. Maddie asks Chad whether her best friend Trish was at the party. Knowing Trish didn't realize she wouldn't be there, Chad reassures her that he covered for her, telling Trish that Maddie was busy practicing the cello. Before leaving, Chad hands Maddie a small gift box. Inside is a necklace with a cello pendant, an early graduation present. Maddie tells him he didn't need to get her anything, especially with graduation still 2 weeks away and one final performance left. Chad gently places the necklace around her neck, calling it her lucky charm. Suddenly, the peaceful moment is shattered when a robber bursts into the diner, demanding Maddie open the register and hand over the cash. He pushes Chad into a chair, threatening him with the gun. Thinking quickly, Maddie grabs whatever money she can and places it in the robber's bag. The robber then notices the necklace Chad had just given her and demands it as well. Chad steps in, trying to protect Maddie, but she quickly unhooks the necklace and puts it in the bag, hoping to avoid further danger. At that moment, Chad attacks the robber, sparking a chaotic struggle. Maddie jumps in to help, trying to grab the gun. During the fight, the gun accidentally fires near Maddie's ear, startling her and causing a loud ringing. The robber then strikes Chad repeatedly with the back of the gun as the violent struggle continues. Then Chad managed to shot the robber arm. Finally, the injured robber makes a run for his truck. Chad pursues him, determined not to let him get away. As the robber climbs into the vehicle, Chad notices the necklace lying on the ground and quickly picks it up. Maddie rushes outside to check on him, and Chad gently hands the necklace back to her. For a brief, tender moment, the chaos fades, leaving only their loving connection. But the moment is brutally shattered when the robber's truck suddenly crashes into Chad, killing him instantly, right in front of Maddie's horrified eyes. A year later, Maddie prepares for her shift at the diner. As she gets dressed, she puts on a hearing aid, a quiet reminder of the accident that changed her life. Her phone buzzes with a few messages just as someone knocks on the door. When Maddie opens it, she is stunned to see her best friend Trish standing there. The two are overjoyed, embracing as they realize how much they have missed each other over the past year. Trish reveals that she has come to take Maddie on the trip they had been planning for a long time. Maddie hesitates and refuses, explaining that things have changed for her. Ignoring the protest, Trish confidently begins packing Maddie's suitcase and grabs her passport, determined not to let her back out. As Maddie watches, her attention drifts to a small box resting beside several photographs of Chad. Her mind slips into a rush of memories, the two of them playing piano together, smiling and carefree. The warmth of that moment abruptly shatters, replaced by haunting flashes of a coffin and the terrifying image of Chad being struck by a truck. Lost in her grief, Maddie is snapped back to reality when Trish gently calls her name. Trish comforts her, reminding Maddie that she is a fighter and doesn't have to face the pain alone. Trish then notices Maddie's cello sitting untouched, covered in dust, with its end pin broken. Maddie quietly admits she has lost all interest in playing music. Refusing to accept this, Trish assures her they will fix that together. Encouraged by her friend's support, Maddie finally agrees to go on the trip. The two arrive in Andaman Island, Thailand, where they spend time reconnecting, laughing, and enjoying drinks together. Trish eagerly takes photos to post on social media, but Maddie asks her not to upload them, worried she could lose her job. Trish brushes it off, saying getting fired might be a blessing, adding that social media is gold and she refuses to ever be the poor girl. Later by the pool, Maddie asks why Trish would spend her hard-earned money on the trip. Trish simply replies, "Why not?" The answer genuinely touches Maddie, making her feel valued and cared for. While walking along the beach, they come across a woman selling decorative hair clips. Maddie buys one, and Trish asks for a whale-shaped clip. Curious, Maddie asks why a whale. Trish hints that it might be a clue. When Maddie presses further, Trish finally reveals the real reason for the trip. She brought Maddie here because Maddie and Chad once shared a deep love for Cedo, the killer whale. The revelation overwhelms Maddie. She wasn't prepared for this and immediately walks away. Trish follows, trying to explain, but Maddie firmly refuses. She says she will not pay to watch Cedo suffer in captivity. Maddie explains that Cedo lost her baby 2 years ago to pneumonia and is forced to perform while grieving. She insists that whales like Cedo belong in the wild, not trapped and used for entertainment. Realizing how deeply this affects Maddie, Trish finally agrees to drop the plan. She reassures Maddie that they can do something else and enjoy the trip in a different way. Trish is talking to Josh, a local, about paddleboarding lessons when Maddie joins them with a beer. Trish introduces Josh to Maddie and explains that she's asking him about paddleboarding lessons. As they continue talking, Maddie notices a World of Orca brochure nearby. Josh immediately criticizes the place, calling it a dump. He says he prefers seeing whales out in the open sea rather than locked away in tanks. He then shares his theory about how whales are used for profit. According to him, Cedo's calf may have died or been badly injured, and that's how Cedo ended up with the scar on her face while trying to protect her baby. Trish echoes something Maddie said before, that whales belong in the wild. Maddie looks at her in disbelief. Maddie mocks him about the brochure, which he tears up, then suggests they sneak into the World of Orca at night. Trish eagerly agrees, and Maddie hesitates but finally goes along. Later that night, after drinking and partying at a club, the three of them head to the World of Orca around midnight. Maddie is still hesitant, but Trish reassures her, saying they're not paying money to endorse Cedo. They just want to say hello. They carefully slip in through a gate, hiding from the security staff as they move through the park. Once inside, Trish encourages Maddie to have her moment with the whale. Maddie approaches the tank while Josh and Trish stay behind together. Standing near the water, Maddie shares a quiet, emotional moment with Cedo, expressing how sorry she feels for her. She talks about how Cedo has been trapped there for almost 20 years and wonders what the park has done to her. Suddenly, Maddie hears a strange sound and turns around. In a horrifying instant, Cedo lunges and attacks a cleaner who is working in the pool. Maddie freezes in shock as she sees the body floating in the water. Panicked, she runs back to Trish and Josh and urgently tells them they have to leave. At that very moment, a security guard spots them and starts chasing them. The three manage to escape before being caught. Shortly after, security contacts the park owner and informs him that the cleaner has been killed. Enraged, the owner gives a strict order to get rid of the whale immediately. The next morning, Trish wakes Maddie up and excitedly tells her they have a surprise planned. Maddie groans, saying she's had enough surprises for one trip. Trish reassures her, promising she'll like this one. The three of them ride jet skis and arrive at a secluded lagoon. Maddie is mesmerized by the breathtaking view and asks Josh why the place is completely empty. Josh explains that some things happened there, which is why no one comes anymore. As Trish starts taking pictures, Josh notices and asks Maddie why her phone seems glued to her hand. Maddie replies that Trish has over 850,000 followers, reminding him that she's a social media girl. Josh suddenly grabs Trish's phone and forcefully pulls it away from her and places it inside a bag on the jet ski. Frustrated, Trish goes to Maddie and asks if she has her phone. Maddie hands it over, and Trish comments on how she keeps her phone sealed inside a sandwich bag to keep it waterproof. Josh tells Trish they're going to take the jet ski out for a fast, intense ride. Turning to Maddie, he reassures her that he'll set her up with something slow and easy instead. He gives her an inflatable floater, allowing her to relax on the water at her own pace. Maddie drifts peacefully on the surface while Josh and Trish ride off on the jet ski. While they're riding, the jet ski is suddenly hit by something underwater. Josh and Trish are thrown into the water. Maddie immediately calls out to them in panic. Moments later, both Josh and Trish resurface. Trish swims toward Maddie and grabs onto the floater, while Josh says he's going to check the jet ski engine. As Josh tries to climb back onto the jet ski, something strikes it again, harder this time. Josh suddenly disappears beneath the water. Maddie and Trish scream his name in terror. Seconds later, Josh reemerges, struggling to stay afloat. They beg him to swim toward them. As Josh reaches out and grabs Trish's hand, something violently drags him back underwater. The water goes still, and all that remains is blood spreading across the surface of the sea. Maddie and Trish are both terrified. Trish panics, asking what they're supposed to do, as they still don't know what attacked Josh. Maddie suggests paddling toward dry land, but the shore is too far, so they slowly move toward a nearby rock formation instead. As they paddle, blood suddenly splashes across the water, and a whale swims towards them. That's when they realize it's Cedo. Panic takes over as they try to paddle faster, but instead, they're pushed backward. The whale surfaces again, then disappears beneath their floater. Trish frantically asks Maddie what she did, and Maddie insists she did nothing. Cedo slams into the floater, forcing both of them to cling tightly. Maddie tells Trish they have no choice. They need to jump the moment the whale surfaces again and swim for the rocks. When Cedo surfaces, Maddie counts to 3. Trish jumps, but Maddie slips into the water instead. Trish swims desperately toward the rocks while Maddie stays near the floater. Cedo turns back toward Maddie, forcing her to climb onto the floater again. The whale then moves toward Trish, but she manages to climb onto the rocks just in time. Trish shouts, asking why Maddie didn't jump. Maddie admits she couldn't. Trish tells her to jump the moment the whale appears again. When Cedo surfaces once more, Maddie finally jumps and swims for the rocks, cutting her feet on sharp seashells as she climbs, but she manages to escape. On the rocks, Maddie notices a deep gash on Trish's thigh and uses a piece of cloth to bandage it. Trish then points out Maddie's injured feet and helps wrap them as well. Maddie and Trish wonder how Cedo went from being in a tank the day before to roaming free in the ocean. And when Trish asks if what Maddie said about seeing a man's body in the tank was true, Maddie confirms it, but admits she doesn't know whether Cedo actually killed him, explaining that killer whales never attack humans in the wild and only become violent in captivity. So even though Cedo is now free, after being trapped for 20 years, she may still believe she's captive, which explains her behavior. They then realize the jet ski they arrived on has been destroyed by Cedo. And when they search Maddie's bag, they find nothing useful except a piece of gum and the small box. Maddie adds that all her supplies were washed away, including the battery for her hearing aid. Then, Trish remembers the sandwich bag Maddie used earlier. She blows air into it, seals it tightly, and explains that with the heat of the sun, it could produce drinkable water within 4 to 6 hours. Maddie calls her a genius, and the two settle in, hoping someone will come to rescue them. After a while, Trish hears a sound and points it out. It's a boat, but it's too far away. They scream for help, but the boat slowly disappears into the distance. Moments later, Cedo surfaces again. Trish asks why the whale is doing this to them. Maddie replies that she doesn't blame Cedo. They've only been stuck here for a day, while Cedo has been trapped in a tank for over 20 years. Maddie says it's no wonder Cedo hates humans. Trish looks at her, confused, asking what she's saying. Maddie quietly answers that she empathizes with Cedo. Maddie suddenly notices something floating in the water and realizes it's a severed hand. Carefully, she pulls an object from its grip, a flashlight. As night falls, Maddie turns it on and screams for help, but Trish tells her no one is coming. The night passes with no rescue. The next morning, Trish wants to talk to Maddie, but before she can say anything, Maddie wakes up and notices water collected inside the sandwich bag. Excited, she points it out, and the two of them each take a small sip before refilling the bag with air again. Only then does Maddie ask Trish what she wanted to talk about earlier. Trish asks Maddie why she stopped playing music, and Maddie admits it was because of Chad. Trish tells her it's never too late to start again and says they could still graduate together like they used to talk about. She then reveals that she paid off her placement debt and wanted to take Maddie somewhere nice, adding that this trip was meant to be that place. Maddie holds Trish's hand and tells her they'll survive this too. She says she's proud of Trish for clearing her debt and asks how she managed it. Trish replies that social media is a goldmine. A moment later, Trish says she's hungry, and Maddie suggests that whatever she stepped on the day before might be edible. While Trish holds Maddie's legs, Maddie carefully enters the water to collect clams and seashells from the rocky bottom. Suddenly, Cedo surfaces near the rocks, forcing Maddie to hurry. She grabs the shells and climbs safely back onto the rock. Trish struggles to open the shells, so Maddie gives her a small box to use. Trish realizes it's Chad's cremation box, but Maddie insists they use it. Inside, they find food, which they eat together, making a toast and vowing to survive and stay together. Later, Maddie stares at the stone from the cremation box, feeling Chad's absence. She whispers that she loved him and wanted to tell him one last time, but she can't. Slowly, she releases the stone into the ocean, acknowledging it's time to let go. Then Trish reassures Maddie that Chad loved her more than anything. Overcome with guilt, Trish confesses the truth about that night. She needed money for her placement and planned to steal from the diner with someone she worked with. The original plan didn't involve a gun, and Maddie wasn't supposed to be there. Maddie realizes that because of Trish's actions, she lost her love, her music, and even her hearing. Furious, Maddie screams that Trish has no right to comfort her, even as Trish continues apologizing. Frustrated and overwhelmed, Maddie removes her hearing aid and places it on the rock. The next morning, Trish realizes staying on the rock is too dangerous. She comes up with a risky plan. She will swim toward the sand, while Maddie heads to a nearby rock from which she can safely reach the shore. Trish calls out instructions, but Maddie cannot hear her clearly, having removed her hearing aid, though Trish doesn't realize this. Trish then jumps into the water and begins swimming slowly. Later, Maddie notices Trish in the water and calls her back. Trish insists she is making things right, and Maddie tells her she doesn't have to. Suddenly, Cito surfaces, and Maddie screams for Trish to swim faster. Trish swims as fast as she can, but the whale is dangerously close. Maddie jumps into the water to distract Cito, who stops chasing Trish and moves toward Maddie instead. Maddie struggles but manages to reach the rock at the last possible moment. Both Trish and Maddie are safe. A plane flies overhead and Trish screams for help, writing SOS in the sand and waving. She accidentally steps into the water and Cito grabs her. Maddie repeatedly calls her name, but after a long struggle, Trish reaches the sand with an amputated leg and loses her life there. That night, Maddie mourns the loss of her best friend, sitting alone on the rock as thunder rumbles and rain splashes down. She talks to Cito, acknowledging that the whale is trapped too, but at least it fights its way. Cito swims away, and Maddie decides she will fight too. She starts swimming toward the sand and finally reaches it safely. Maddie then sees Trish lying there and recalling Trish's words, "We are fighters." Remembering that Trish's phone is in the jet ski, she swims to retrieve it, grabbing her bag, her cello endpin, and the phone. She tries to call for help, but the phone doesn't work. When Cito surfaces again, Maddie fights back, using the endpin to strike the whale, injuring it and forcing it away. The next morning, a rescue helicopter arrives and saves Maddie, bringing her to safety.